Having a look back at a game that I played when I was 22 might not exactly fit into my younger, carefree days. But here is the thing, I may not have been in my youth at 22, but I was still living a carefree life. I was working in a factory, not exactly earning good money, but I was young, free and single, and my only real vices at this point were fast cars, beer, and of course, video games. But hey, I always say the difference between men and boys is the price of the toys. And I still enjoyed playing video games, so I was going to keep playing them until the wheels came off. In 1999, I had developed different tastes in games, having recently played the likes of Final Fantasy VII, Resident Evil and Tomb Raider on the PlayStation. It was nice to just take it easy and get back to a more pick up and play game, and I still ventured into Glasgow to go into booths on my days off. The really good thing about booths at that time was that the owner didn't give a damn about rules, which is precisely why he had a Gigawing arcade cabinet in his place. Gigawing was a game that was released by Capcom in 1999, but not in Europe, and so to stumble upon this in a British arcade was a rare thing. The game is based on the players trying to destroy a medallion which possesses great power. Many of the bosses use the medallion as a weapon. There are 4 different characters in the game: Shinosuke, Ruby, Isha and Stuck, and each of them has their own individual storyline. Players can also do team play mode that has 2 characters at once, creating a new storyline. In each storyline there are 2 endings, a good ending and a bad ending. The player chooses one of 4 different crafts and shoots through 7 stages. Each level ends with a boss fight, and each game begins with 3 lives. The option to continue is given when all lives are lost, although the 7th stage is only accessible if the player does not use any continues. Each ship in Gigawing has 3 attacks: a normal shot, reflect and force bomb. Defeated ships sometimes drop power-ups, but each ship starts out with 2 bombs, and up to 7 can be collected. Each bomb left in reserve after any boss fight gives the player a bonus. Players can increase their score multiplier by collecting medals dropped by defeated ships. A player rank is determined by score at the end of each level, and the game adjusts the difficulty accordingly. And speaking of score, this game has an insane scoring system, and just look at these scores. I can't even begin to attempt to read that score. Just suffice to say, it's a lot of points. As this was a Capcom game and a Bullett-Hell shooter, I knew I would like it. Having put aside past prejudices towards shooters I had in recent years, I started to play more and more of them, although I still preferred most other genres, if I'm being honest. Much like Batsugun, this game is crazy tough and was developed by some of the same team that had developed Batsugun. When Toaplan folded, some of the staff formed a new company called Takumi. and this game was developed by them and released by Capcom on the Capcom CPS2 system. The CPS2 system had recently been used in games such as Aliens vs Predator, X-Men Children of the Atom, and of course, the excellent Street Fighter Alpha series of games, all of which looked stunning. But the improved hardware allowed for more smaller sprites to be moved around. And this is why Gigawing looks so damned impressive and busy. In fact, this game is non-stop with huge waves of brightly coloured projectiles flooding every inch of the available screen. But unlike Batsugun, this game uses a wider play area, and this also allows for some really big waves of enemy craft, and also more area to help avoid the absolute barrage of enemy fire from the bosses. Visually, the game is excellent. There are some areas that I personally feel look cheap, like this Gigawing pre-rendered image that crops up between levels. Pre-rendering was a technique used in some games of the era, like Final Fantasy VII and Resident Evil, as it took up less memory than rendering them using the game engine. And in those games it looked good, but in this game it looks a little cheap. But that is the only blemish on an otherwise smooth work of art. The main sprites may be small, but they're fine, and all of the enemy craft look brilliant, and all the bosses look really nice as well. This level with the flying islands is really nice. The animated blades in opposite directions look great, and the little bunkers that get left when you destroy the gun turret that was there just all adds to the feeling of immense destruction left in the wake of the player. The soundtrack is just so good from the opening to the last. Each tune sounds like a part of the action, and the boss tune has this 90s rave start to it, and then it breaks down into this sinister dance beat that really gets the heart thumping and shoots the adrenaline levels up to help with the task at hand. The music at the character select screen is my favourite. It has this kind of haunting, old era sound to it, with a kind of horror movie wind instrument sound. I really don't know why, but this is a tune I love. The explosions are brilliant. They sound like a mini rocket breaking through a plasterboard wall or something. And the speech sounds very computerised, but in a good way. Everything about it just fits perfectly to the game. The gameplay is a lot like Batsugun, super tough, very addictive, and supremely enjoyable to play. When I played it in booths, I couldn't get enough of the game at first, and in those days, I didn't hesitate to put in £10 or £20 to beat a game. And even being on the more expensive side of things at £1 a go, it was still a massive amount of fun. I never beat it in the arcade, and by those days, I didn't even really care about that. I just had an absolute blast playing it. I had a Supergun adapter by the time I discovered this future classic, and I could have bought it for about £200, but I declined. I had just recently discovered MAME round about this time, and I was confident of being able to play it at home in just a few years. These days, I play it on MAME. I do not play it as much as Batsugun. I think Batsugun is a better game to play, but I do play it from time to time and still get a real kick out of it. Gigawing was also one of the last games I would discover in booths, as by the end of the year, the video games would slowly start to make room for fruit machines. I guess they made more money for the owner, but in general, arcades would be in a decline at this point. The days of 5 or 6 Street Fighter cabinets all being played with a long queue to get on it were over. The home consoles were more than capable of producing the same experience now. And so, it was at that point that a piece of my childhood was starting to feel like it was being eroded. Even though I was a young adult, it was the realisation that the place that was responsible for some of my best childhood memories would probably no longer be a part of my life. But everything comes to an end at some point. Anyway, Gigawing is an outstanding game in my opinion, and I highly recommend you play it on MAME if you have the ability to do so. And that was my look back at Gigawing. If you like this video, then please do give me a sub and a thumbs up, or maybe even a comment or two below about your memories of Gigawing. And a massive thank you to all of those who have subscribed to my channel. Your feedback and support goes a long way in helping the channel grow, and I do appreciate all of the comments, so thank you from me. And that's all from me folks. Thanks for watching.